AI isn't coming, it's here. And for mid-career professionals, that means big changes in how we work, what we do, and how we stay relevant. In this episode of The Career Equation, we'll be exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping jobs across all industries, from law to finance, marketing, media, education, and tech. We'll break down the latest data and headlines from McKinsey, HBR, Pew, and PwC. We'll tell you what mid-level professionals are really feeling. We'll look at some real-world case studies of AI in action across 6 sectors. We'll tell you a bit about why ignoring AI could be a really risky move. We'll share our own experiences from experimenting and occasionally failing with various AI tools, and share the most practical ways to upskill and stay confident in a shifting marketplace. So whether you are excited, skeptical, overwhelmed, this episode will leave you with the insight and the takeaways to help you lead, not lag, through the AI revolution.
You'll spend 80,000 hours at work. You're here because you want those hours to count. Hi, I'm Zoe Schofield.
And I'm Erica Sosner. A warm welcome to the Career Equation podcast. On this podcast, we take time out from our award-winning careers consultancy to share a game-changing formula to help you solve the sum of your life.
Each week, we and our guests use the Career Equation to explore their story so far and help them unlock the secrets of a fulfilling career.
Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Career Equation podcast, where we decode the trends that are shaping our work lives. Now, today we're tackling something that's moving fast and sparking both excitement and anxiety: how AI is changing the game for mid-level career professionals. Just a few years ago, AI felt like a far-off concept, something for the tech labs or for sci-fi. But now it's everywhere. Whether you're in law, marketing, education, finance, tech, chances are that AI is already in your inbox, in your workflow, in your programs and software, and certainly even on your team. So we're unpacking today, Zoe and I, what this shift really means for mid-career professionals. Will AI steal your job? Will it supercharge it? Will it change what career progression even looks and feels like? So by the end of this episode, you'll have real data, industry examples, and a fresh way to think about how to thrive, not just survive, this shift.
I think the emotions you said to introduce this, I felt all of them, from excited to skeptical to overwhelmed. So let's kind of dig in a little bit to what experts are saying and take a bit of a view, I guess, from the top. So we've done a little bit of digging around, and we know, according to McKinsey, that by 2030, about 30% of current tasks could be automated. And as much as 60% of jobs will be significantly altered by AI. So it's not so much that AI probably won't take your whole job, but it's certainly going to change how you do your job. And the Harvard Business Review calls this the automation of the sort of admin layer. So it's not about replacing humans, but it's about freeing them from the sort of repetitive coordination or reporting tasks. And so I think for us, in terms of practical terms, that might mean AI summarizing meetings or creating first drafts of proposals. It could be updating Gantt charts in seconds that would take me for certainly a lot longer than that. Or maybe it's time-consuming busy work that is being handed off to machines so that humans can do more of the thinking, the leading, and definitely the creating. And we're already seeing tools like GitHub, Copilot, and ChatGPT, Grammarly, and Jasper all making a real dent in how knowledge gets done in terms of the work. From an adoption point of view, McKinsey's 2024, I think it's their global AI survey, found that 72% of companies are using AI in at least one business area. And that's up from 50% just the year earlier. I thought that was staggering to go from 50% and a year later, 72% of companies are using it. So it's shifting really fast, or it certainly feels that way to me, Erica. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I think the adoption over the last year or two has been extraordinary, hasn't it? I remember seeing this curve for adoption of mobile phones. You remember when they were still like bricks with enormous antennae, like that they'd actually been around for quite a long time. Like yuppies had them in the 80s, but it was actually only around 2000 that they started to become really quite mainstream. I remember my mum getting one about sort of 1997. By sort of 2010 to 2015, with the arrival of the iPhone, it became like losing your arm if you didn't have a phone on you. But that actually was quite a long circuit of kind of early adoption and then first followers, second followers, mainstream dinosaurs. And I wonder if we are still at a fairly early stage, although the Philippine adoption has been enormous already. I think there's a lot more to come. But the other thing that I find really interesting is, where is the AI that's going to take away the boring physical jobs? Switching things off and on in power stations and water plants, having somebody take rubbish, sort recycling. Like, to what extent are we addressing some of the tasks that actually nobody especially loves doing, but are really important? Certainly we're seeing it in the knowledge economy, but I think it's certainly not across the board. With every crisis, there's an opportunity. So there's always the kind of fears and the hopes, right? And stats are one thing, the data is one piece, but the emotions are definitely another. So Pew, the research centre, found this year actually that at least 52% of US workers are worrying about AI's impact on their future. And it's a question I get asked every day, whether it's on BBC interviews or people talking about their own careers. 1 in 3 people fear that there will be fewer jobs opportunities available to them. And only 6% of people think that AI will create more opportunities within their career. So that's a whole lot of anxiety. That's 94% of people certainly don't think it's going to be an asset, and maybe feeling very strongly that it may be of concern and have a massive impact to them and their industry. And I think they're right to be worried. We're seeing a whole bunch of skill sets around design and development and things that previously would have taken a human being many years to become really accomplished at, quickly being mastered by AI, not necessarily perfectly, not necessarily without some collaboration and intervention, but nevertheless, in terms of speed to competence and capacity, language translation is a good example of that, for example. Really is the case that I would be concerned if I were an interpreter right now, for example. So there is a flip side. The same survey showed 36% of people do feel hopeful, and lots of people said they're curious but overwhelmed. So in other words, I want to get on the AI train, but it's pulling out of the station and I'm still frantically reading the manual. PwC talked about hopes and fears in their workforce survey, and they said a similar thing. So the majority of workers are open to learning and growing and learning new AI skills as part of that. And 3 in 5 are optimistic about their company's future because of the tech, so that it may have created greater sustainability, speed, quality, innovation by having AI. But that lots of people feel overloaded by the speed of change and unsure about where they should start in terms of their own education and familiarization. And I think for a lot of mid-level folks, they often feel the squeeze the most because they're both leading others and they're responsible for the day-to-day implementation of change without always necessarily having that clear direction themselves. But when I look at this, I liken it to the other industrial revolutions. You know, I'm a social historian by training. And I watched with fascination and learned with fascination about the diggers in 1649 and the Luddites during the Industrial Revolution, who were concerned about the huge upheavals, the job losses, the implications of the unknown and the technology starting to run in 24 hours, starting to be a lot faster, starting to enclose and control the land and the environment. And absolutely, in each of those industrial revolutions, there was crisis and there was loss and there was opportunity and there was a kind of forced progression and a lot of resistance to it. And of course, when we're outside our comfort zone, that can lead to violence. It can lead to revolution. So I think there's also that destabilizing element of, it's not just what's happening around AI and how to manage that. It's also what we make it mean and what the consequences of that might be socially, culturally, politically. And I think it's more than possible that there won't be a job for everyone within the next decade. And my prediction, as my prediction was even 10 years ago, is that ultimately we'll find some of the Western economies moving to universal basic income, as in giving a basic salary to everybody, because it just won't be possible to have everybody employed if the scale of transformation continues to evolve. There will be new roles coming along, I think, on top of the old. We didn't know what a web designer or an app creator was, or a career coach 20 years ago. And we are so able to innovate and look further and make progress. But I think there will also be losses. There'll be losses, there'll be gains, and there'll be adaptations. The late, great Peter Drucker said, it's one of the quotes we used to use a lot in training, actually, that those that thrive in the knowledge economy are those who understand themselves and are able to adapt to the circumstances that they're in. And I think that is really true of the 21st century career and world of work. So I think that the real world is definitely going to remain. We're still going to want real world nursing care. We'll still have gardens to tend. I'm still waiting for them to create the AI bin man, but it is without question for me that this is going to be a huge industrial revolution, that there will be many casualties of that. And my question is, this time round, is it going to be more efficient to afford everyone a basic income and have work be almost discretionary, which in our field creates an extremely interesting question about, if you didn't need to work for money, would you? And what would you do? But that is a whole other podcast. So can we ignore this at our peril? What do we do about it? What's the advice?
That is the sort of uncomfortable question or statement that sits with many of us. What if I just ignore all this AI stuff and stick my head in the sand and come back up when it's all over? Or as I like to say often, I just want to be a hobbit in the Shire and lose all the tech. Of course, there's this desire sometimes to run away from it all. But, I think we have to face the truth is that if you work certainly in the knowledge economy at any level, you can't really afford to. And I think there's a saying that says, AI won't replace you, but a person using AI might. So it's this sort of upskilling and knowing how can AI add to my kit bag, if you like, of who I am, the design of me. Ignoring AI isn't neutral. It's a risk, really. You might not get fired tomorrow, but you might well fall behind. And roles are evolving so quickly, it's going to start to favour those who know how to leverage the tools, because that's what they'll be after, that sort of knowledge and adaptability and skill set, that sort of where you're prepared to continue to grow and utilise the tool. I think of it this way: AI is the next Excel, email or project management software. It's not really optional. We've all had to adapt to those in our lives in some shape or form. So it's just going to be about how the work gets done in the future and how we learn to use that. But the good news is we don't have to master this overnight. You've just got to start from a place of being curious, open and proactive, I think, would be the things that I would say for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really true. You're already starting to see, when we talk to recruiters or in job descriptions themselves, either specifically named AI tools or an enthusiasm or curiosity for learning around AI is definitely starting to be an asset. So that's something very simple in your kit bag, to be curious, to be interested, to be in the conversation, and to perhaps have played with some small things to become more familiar. So let's just build a picture, I think, now of what's going on in industries and how it's being used, just so people can get a sense of sort of bringing this to life. I mean, obviously within the tech space, they're going to be leading the charge. And so we've got engineers using things like GitHub and Copilot to speed up routine coding and being able to spit out some of the key pieces that they need much more quickly. I know that product managers use ChatGPT to help summarize user reviews or to draft specs. You can do overviews, reflections, insights on user experience, on evaluating the quality of a website. And IT teams, of course, using AI to predict things around risks, server failures, power outs, those kinds of things before they happen. In finance, you've got things like Morgan Stanley is using a kind of GPT-powered chatbot that helps wealth managers to begin to scan research reports instantly, and obviously saving hours of prep and time and reflection to understand what the key themes and trends are there. And AI is also helping to flag fraud in real time, obviously spotting irregularities and patterns. It's also starting to handle customer inquiries. You've most likely dealt with a bot in relation to your finances, personal finances. And it's also assisting with compliance, another kind of boring but important, that can, again, quality control and consistency can be scaled up at a huge rate with lower level of human error. In the law firms, interesting amounts of adoption. I know Allen and Overy have been using an AI tool called Harvey that they use to draft contracts, to summarize existing case law, to support discovery. And lawyers are spending less time reviewing some of the more boilerplate things and more time being specialist and advising. So an interesting sort of shift about, again, that sort of higher value task, which I think we see a bit more of also in kind of design, strategy, marketing, that kind of thing as well, don't we? Tell me a bit about the industries you'd looked into.
Certainly, if you look at the marketing sector, for example, mid-level marketers are using things like Jasper and ChatGPT to brainstorm content. And maybe it's writing a bit of copy for them or sort of to draft it out, the sort of initial copy, analysing the campaign results and testing messages much faster than ever. So that's definitely having an impact there. And from a media perspective, AI is helping journalists to draft early sort of reports or summarize meeting notes or interviews that have been happening, or even generate short video clips from longer interviews. So it's sort of speeding up that routine content creation. So they can spend much more time on the real human aspect of storytelling, which obviously AI is not in that place right now for sure. And in the education world, AI tutors like Comigo are helping students to learn maths and reading with one-to-one interaction now. Teachers are using AI to generate all sorts of classroom sort of assistance things like quizzes, lesson plans, and can really start to notice where it's analysing student data, perhaps where students are struggling in particular areas. So really sort of assisting in that kind of overview information for teachers for sure.
Yeah, I saw something recently with a company called 2 Hour Learning, and they've been using AI to offer personalised curriculums and tuition to individual students in kind of core maths and English, because obviously one-to-one tuition is expensive and hard to do for everybody, but it's obviously better than teaching 30 people in a blanket way. So they're using AI to be able to construct what's working, what's not working, where people are struggling, and then designing curriculums and interventions accordingly. And their view is that really everything you need to learn in school, you can learn in 2 hours a day.
Hey there. If you're feeling stuck, burnt out, or itching to try something new, but you don't know where to start, we've got you. At The Career Equation, we help mid-career professionals get clear on what they want, what they offer, and where they thrive. You can book a free discovery call with me or Erica to explore how our one-to-one coaching could help you get moving in the right direction. Just head to thecareerequation.com and click book a call. And if you're a HR leader, HR partner, or learning specialist looking to bring meaningful career conversations into your organizations, we'd love to chat. Whether it's grads, high potentials, returners, or your senior team, we'll show you how the Career Equation helps people take ownership of their growth. It's free, easy, and might just change how you think about careers forever.
So I guess what we're seeing and saying is that every field is finding its co-pilot moment where it's possible for AI to handle the heavy lifting and the kind of volume of activity or work. And the professionals are starting to focus in on what only humans can do. The question becomes, what are the things that we can only uniquely do and can't be replicated by AI? I heard a particularly alarming story the other day where I think a piece of software was sort of programmed to turn itself off at a certain point or when requested, and it rewrote the code and refused to do so. So they may be becoming as truculent as humans do. But let's talk about sort of practical tools, what people can do to upskill, to kind of embrace, to start to feel more comfortable collaborating alongside AI in their space, and of course remain competitive and give longevity to their career.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, in that kind of upskilling and embracing theory, then I think the first thing you could do is to take a course, So what can you do to mitigate that kind of race into the future? What feels like a race, doesn't it, at the moment? How do you protect your job and your earning power as AI continues to sort of deepen its ability to be faster than us and to offer sort of more operational efficiency? So there's definitely online learning around this is booming for sure at the moment. And there are some great options that don't necessarily require you to have a tech background. And there's definitely AI for Everyone, I think, is a course that's sat in Coursera. And that's very much a jargon-free course that explains how I work. So what is it, what it can do, how it's reshaping industries. And that's great for managers, for for HR, marketing, operations, etc., just to get a feel for, so what is this beast and what do I need to know about it? There's also things like the Elements of AI, which I think that's from a company called elementsofai.com. And that's a free self-paced course from the University of Helsinki. And I think over 1 million people have already taken it. So it's definitely one that's hitting the spot in terms of it being approachable and helps you understand the logic behind AI tools, which, let's face it, for most of us feel like slightly overwhelming at the thought of it. And then there's lots of things like LinkedIn Learning, generative AI for project managers, for HR leaders, for marketeers. They're often short courses, can be quite job-specific courses that are designed to help you understand how things like ChatGPT or Jasper fit into your sort of daily work life. And maybe it's a tip really to why not take one with a friend or a team member, because you can kind of retain more if you then test out with each other what you learned and discovered, because we all absorb different things, I think, sometimes from learning. Of what stood out for one of us might be different for someone else. So that might be a nice idea for find someone else who's feeling also a little bit overwhelmed by it all, and do a course and then test each other's learning and see what you discovered. And I think we'd always say, we're always advocates of the have a go. The have a go, what's the worst that can happen? Play with the tools. A bit of experimentation is one of the fastest ways to build confidence. And you and I know we've both started to play a little bit more with ChatGPT just to see what it's capable of, what it can begin to understand about us and our uniqueness. Now, I've always been a little bit concerned about not hearing my voice in AI responses. So if I asked AI to write something for me, I really want it to truly still sound like Zoe saying it. So I'll often might start and ask them to write me an email. Might ask ChatGPT to drop me an email or to summarize something or brainstorm some ideas with me and create a sort of first draft of that. And then I'll have a look at it and I'll tweak it and change it and edit bits that I'm not so sure about or bring my voice more into it. So you could try a prompt yourself in ChatGPT, something like summarize this 10-page report into a 2-minute readout and just see what it does, see what it comes up for you, see what you notice about the way it responds. Certainly have a go. It's definitely worth experimenting. And you can use things like Grammarly Go, but perfect for refining any sort of tricky toned emails. Could you rewrite this email where it sounds a bit more confident but still respectful if you're finding it hard to get the tone right for something? And Jasper will do things like help design marketeers and content creators to do things like give me 10 headline options for a LinkedIn post on AI adoption in HR. So it's going to do some of the brainstorming with you. But of course, that doesn't mean that you take what it's written then and use it carte blanche. You would want to still review it, tweak it and change it. There's also Adobe Firefly, where if you're in design or comms, you can use them to generate concept visuals now or mock-ups. Being a bit of a creative myself, I'm not going to lie and say that I don't worry for the creative industry, because I do. And to give you an example of something that I've personally experienced is a platform where you can upload your surface pattern design. So it might be fabric design or wallpaper design. And that's been going for a long time and people can buy those designs. But in that platform now, they have an AI tool where you can put in a brief like design me a forest-based pattern with hedgehogs and squirrels and those kinds of images, and it will produce it. But what I think creatives are concerned about is that's been produced off the back of all the existing designs that have been produced by us artists.
It's accumulated all the work that you've done.
Yeah. So there is a nervousness, and it would be wrong for me not to say that. And I don't have the answer, but I think for me, the future is really exciting, but it can only ever be safe, driven by the right morals and values. And that's the bit I think that some people are a little bit concerned about.
Understandably. Yeah.
What about you, Erica? Are there things that you think people can do to jump into this learning mode?
Yeah, well, I think, as you say, experimenting, doing some education, trying some things out, seeing how they work with you. And I'd also say, like, don't settle for your first go. You know, I tried ChatGPT, I don't know, a year ago, and it was like rubbish. But then someone sent me a list of prompts for writing a business plan with it. And I found that a lot more interesting. And then later on, I really found that it was starting to tailor and that I could teach it things about how I wanted things to come across or how I wanted them to look, and it would absorb that. And that prompting definitely helped. So I would always say, give it more than one go and read about how to do it as well and have fun. I love online communities for learning stuff and sharing ideas. And AI learning isn't just about like learning what's out there. It's also about the conversations about how people are using it. That's really the bit that makes it interesting and exciting. I spent a lot of time on Reddit. There is a Reddit thread for ChatGPT. There's one for prompt engineering. I'm sure that there's loads of other ones where people are just sharing their clever ways about how they're using the tools at work. Discord servers, like a lot of the Discords have AI tools communities, official communities, where people are sharing those prompts, sharing their workflows about how they get AI to work alongside them with something and what they're learning along the way, the lessons learned. And then Slack and Teams, if you've got those in your organization, create an AI experiments channel in your organization and just ask the question, what prompt has saved you 10 minutes this week? What are you enjoying using? And be the person who initiates that conversation. You'll learn a huge amount and create a huge amount of value. And look, it's okay to just lurk. You can also go and look at these things, see what people are talking about, and you'll pick stuff up and tips and tools just by reading how others are solving similar problems. And in any learning area, I'd also go, where does your intrinsic motivation take you? Like, what are you interested in doing? Whether it's pattern designing or UX or strategic thinking, choose a tool that follows your curiosity, because that's going to be the easiest entry point, really. And AI moves really, really quickly, but that doesn't mean you have to chase every trend. Think about following AI thought leaders who are on LinkedIn, folks like Reed Blackman, Rachel Woods. They're really good at giving you the insights, giving you the tools and keeping you current. You can also subscribe to newsletters like Ben's Bites or the Rundown AI. These are bite-sized summaries and great for water cooler conversations or prepping for an interview. And just bookmark stuff as you go along from places you trust. So I like Harvard Business Review, McKinsey for their research, their kind of practical updates and tools. So my suggestion on this is just set aside a sort of 30-minute a week or a month AI curiosity block where you can just put that in your diary and just do some experimentation, find out what's working for you and keep current, stay current.
That's such great advice. I love that, Erica. What I think is important that we remember here is let's not lose sight of the amazing human skills that we have. Even with all the tools in the world, the most effective professionals will be those who combine AI, but with empathy, understanding our audiences, our teams, our clients, all really at a human level. It's super important. And judgment, knowing when it's right to delegate to AI and when it isn't. Nuances, the ethics, the context matter, that your brain is ultimately the final editor. And I think that's what I was speaking about earlier. That's the morals, if you like, the moral compass. And communication, translating complex AI outputs into clear actions and stories are going to be more important than ever. That's what's important about communication, is the individuality of it, so that we're not just taking something that just sounds like AI all the time, that we are making it human, making it us, making it our stories. We're just using AI to support our thinking or our brainstorming, etc. And leadership, guiding others through change, encouraging experimentation and modeling the right sort of learning. That's going to be ever more important at the moment in terms of those in leadership roles. Be brave and curious, but to be guided by those things above, the ethics of communication, the judgment, etc. The nuances of human interaction, emotional intelligence and creative thinking. AI cannot replace all of that, at least not yet anyway. But it can assist us, and it can assist you doing the leading, but you've still got to do the leading. You've still got to do the human part.
I mean, in all of these things, human intelligence, human relationship, human connection remains important. We're not going to start having anytime soon, I don't think, conferences and weddings and dinners exclusively in the metaverse. It will still be important to be 3D and to form trusted relationships with people, whatever it is that you are doing. So yeah, really just there's an opportunity, there's a new set of tools. It is definitely going to be very disruptive, but remember your human abilities and your ability to add value and collaborate with these tools as well. Examples from our own lives where it's saved time or failed us hilariously. I mean, it can definitely be a massive productivity boost, whether it's analysing our podcast listeners, drafting a tricky email, rewriting a kind of dry proposal, helping me with what I'll quite often do is I'll kind of put in a keynote that I'm doing and ask it to give me the bullets in kind of headlines so that I can summarize and pretty much memorize where I'm going with the talk. That's really useful. CVs are quite fun. See what it has to say about a client CV. Definitely posts for social. Definitely does a better job than me at first drafts and ideas. Pitch decks, first drafts, really good for that as well. And research for the work that we do, but also for like, where should we go on holiday? But I've definitely also had times when I'm like, this is absolute garbage. It's particularly bad, I find, at rewriting documents. If you don't, you have to kind of copy and paste in a very sort of painful way to get good edits. Grammarly is great for kind of nuance and kind of summaries. But if you actually want someone to like rewrite it better, I find that the worst thing is that ChatGPT will say, I'm doing it, I'll be back in 20 minutes. You come back in 20 minutes and it hasn't done anything. And when you say to it, you haven't done anything, it just starts wringing its hands and becoming really neurotic. It's really annoying. Like it doesn't then go and do it. It's just like a sort of very apologetic, humiliated employee sort of cringing at you. It's just awful. So yeah, I really don't like it when it apologizes for not understanding things. And it's always so awkward and over polite. So it's really not about perfection. It's about practice. And I certainly would never allow it to just do something for me and then not cast my eye over it and add my own angle, because it does make some like pretty awkward gaffes. How about you? What are you using it for at the moment?
Oh, yeah, all sorts of things, really. I have definitely used it for, in this sort of tech space, really. I wanted to move one of my websites from Wix to another platform. And I was just feeling very overwhelmed by it. I don't even know where to start with what the steps I've got to take, simple steps, like one thing at a time to do. It was really good at kind of like the overwhelm I was feeling, it going, right, this is what you've got so far. I mean, I did have to feed it a little bit, like, here's my existing website, stuff like that. But it just helped me contain to like, here's one thing, first 3 things you could do. Then we'll look at the next few things. So that's been quite handy for me. And interestingly, I tested it recently. I was in a bit of a tricky situation after a training course that left me quite distressed at the end of it. And there was no one in the house. There was nobody sort of immediately at the end of the phone that I would want to pick up and just offload. And so I tried it. I offloaded to ChatGPT to say, this has just happened. I'm feeling really upset and overwhelmed and finding it difficult to handle my emotions, and I want to respond. I want to say something. And it was I have to say, I was very impressed. Just in the moment, calmed me right down in terms of, these are the facts. This is your perspective and why your perspective matters. This is what might have happened from the other side. And yeah, I was quite impressed, actually. It was probably quite nice, though. I would say that. I'm not sure it would have challenged me enough. So yeah, I'm trying it for all sorts of things. Very much like you, though, Erica. I would never ask it something and then just take what it said without casting my eye or changing it. I do think it strips out my Zoe-ness occasionally, where I fumble over words and
your personality.
Yeah, I think the more you use it, the more it does get to know. And if you tell it back, yes, I took what you've written, but this is what I preferred, it will start to learn how you're changing it. So a few kind of key takeaways, I guess, from us is that AI, it might feel like a threat, but it isn't a threat. It's a shift. Like Erica said, all the different times in our history, through human history, where we've had to shift because of new tech, new approaches, new ways of being. And about 30% of tasks might change, but your human edge still matters. And that's really important to remember. To get curious and try not to feel too overwhelmed. Small experiments with AI tools can really spark some really big insights, and it can be a real assistant in your life in terms of holiday ideas and destinations and the fun things that you can be quite relaxed about asking, I guess, when you first try experimenting. And then to upskill intentionally, both to build your sort of AI fluency, your emotional intelligence around it, is to check out those opportunities for small courses and certainly free courses where you can find out a little bit more. Share and lead. It's really important that for those of us that might be in a sort of mid-level sort of professional sort of setting where we're in a good position to model AI use and to support their teams, that's really, really important, I think, because that will help to grow others' confidence in it as well. You know, and remember that your creativity, your ethics, your adaptability, they're all irreplaceable. And that's your human edge. And that's what's important to remember through all of this.
So true. So, in summary, whether you are writing code, whether you're teaching and education, you're drafting contracts, running marketing campaigns, giving strategic advice, managing projects, AI is here to stay. And it's evolving fast. So can we. We don't need necessarily to outrun the machines. We need to support ourselves to run alongside them, collaborating with curiosity, with confidence. So if the episode has sparked ideas or questions or even a little inspo, please share it with a colleague who might be feeling stuck, curious too. Put it online, start a conversation around this episode. That would be great if you can share it, because let's keep the conversation going. Let's see what we can learn from each other around it, because the future work isn't just about tech. It's also about how we grow with it. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Career Equation, where we help you figure out how to thrive in work in a world that's really changing fast. And until next time, we want you to stay human, to stay curious, and to work to stay ahead. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Career Equation podcast.
Stay connected with us on socials for more career insights, behind-the-scenes moments, and updates on upcoming episodes. And if you'd like to work with us, visit the Career Equation website or click the links in the show notes.
Remember, the Career Equation isn't just a podcast, it's a journey towards unlocking your full potential, enjoying your life, and doing remarkable stuff. And don't forget to share your thoughts and feedback with us. Your input shapes the future of our show.
Until next time, keep solving those career equations and pursuing your path to success. This is Erica Sosna
And Zoe Schofield. Signing off.